In Where the Scary Things Are, a bunch of weird kids get tangled up in a create-your-own urban legend school project that ends up killing 1 or 2 or maybe 3 people. It's a pretty scary movie, not for the mediocre pet monster we will get to know shortly, but because you just don't know if you're able to survive the 90 minutes of utter disappointment. But I did, so you don't have to. So let's embark on this journey and witness the worst dialogue since the mute film era. Look at the mistakes these characters make, and as always, figure out better ways on how to beat and survive the pet monster in Where the Scary Things Are. Let's go! A bunch of weird kids, probably in their early years of high school, are the rebels of their classes. They like to trespass off-limit areas, disobey the elderly, and tease each other that borders at mobbing. They call themselves the Doxers, and they love finding dirt on people and post it on the internet to blackmail them. Charming little beasts, I know. Well, this makes it easier to justify the moral dilemma of roasting child characters. Today, after having trespassed an abandoned junkyard that seems to be their regular hangout spot, they have been caught by the guard and their parents have been called in. As they're separately brought back home, the parents blow it so much out of proportion, one could mean the kids have just started a war against an innocent country. If the junkyard shouldn't be trespassed, then why not add an unchained pit bull like back in the old days? Problem solved. Why make it complicated? Anyway, the movie pretty much starts the next day when the kids are back at school. The valuable topic that is taught today is urban legends. That's right, our 16-year-olds are taught to distinguish between reality and fiction today. While the teacher rants on about how the local urban legend of Lockjaw is just a legend, one of the kids is triggered by the photo projected and starts having a low-key panic attack. While this kid is triggered by the content of this class, Isla, one of our characters, is triggered by the other kid being triggered.
This stuff scares me. Everything scares her.
Was that Ayla?
Yeah, I feel a little tension here, but maybe that's just me. While the first trigger victim is brought to the school nurse, the others have to start writing their own urban legends. Not only do they have to write 5 short stories, but they have to pick one and make a real-life project out of it. Our characters meet up after school and discuss that the best way to go about this would be to create a really scary urban legend, combine it with a video, upload it to YouTube, and have it actually turn real. Meaning a legend that is passed on from kid to kid, not knowing if the legend is BS or actually real. But before things go down, let me show you why I dislike these characters so much. During the upcoming night, the 2 boys of the group decided it would be a fun thing to set a homeless person on fire and film it, of course.
Welcome to the first episode of Bum Wars.
You see, if I wrote a book or a movie script and one of my characters would turn out to be like this obnoxious kid right here, I assure you he would be the first one to be killed off. And I am not talking about an accidental Final Destination-esque death that happens while walking down a beautiful suburban alleyway. No, I'm talking hostile type shit. The next day, stuff gets more interesting. Our group meets up again at the junkyard, and while Snack, this dude right here, goes for a stroll, he hears a menacing sound coming from the pond. Being creeped out by it, he runs back to the others and calls them for help. As they investigate the area, this happens. Well, a monster that slowly walks towards you and then collapses for no reason at all. Very convenient, wonderful stuff. The kids then bag the monster like a fat kid candy in a candy store and tow him back to the hideout. They chain it to the wall and see what happens next. That's probably not a good idea, but well, let's follow along. Finding a monster may be a cool thing, right? Especially when you survive the encounter, but why the hell would you want to keep it as a pet? I mean, granted, you would probably become famous and rich if you play your cards right, we will talk about this in a bit, but the risks of being killed off is pretty obvious with this thing being just inches away from your face, right? What happens next though is even more surreal. Instead of going nuts and contacting anyone, our characters just peacefully walk back home as if they had the most normal evening. But even more unbelievable is when Snack, during the same night, ventures back to the monster completely on his own to feed it some ground meat and pass along some water. Why would you do that? That's like watching E.T. for morons. You don't just befriend a completely strange humanoid monster that eats children for breakfast. I know teenage hormones are volatile, but this thing is the last being that I would want to see before heading to bed. But whatever we might think about this weird scene, it actually bears some merit. Snack finds out that as long as you don't display any signs of fear, this monster stays relatively calm. At least it doesn't attack you. However, at the same time, witnessing this thing eat meat is a pretty big red flag. Firstly, it's obviously a carnivore, and humans are made of flesh. And that's meat, in case you didn't know. Secondly, it's a non-human monster that looks exactly like something that would kill a human being. That's red flag number 2. And thirdly, it's nastier than the roaches in District 9, which you should check out on our channel because it's a pretty darn good movie. Look, the best thing to do here is get your video clips, call in the authorities, pass on the responsibility, and take a public stance. Give as many interviews as possible, sign a book deal, sell your rights to the story 3 years later, and retire at age 19. This would have been possible for each and every one of them, but instead they decided it would be more beneficial to keep it as a pet monster and use it for their upcoming school project. Well, we already know how this will turn out, don't we? During the next day, they finally decide it's time to film their project, but nothing is ever shared about this. I mean, we briefly heard that they need to create an own urban legend, but we have zero idea what their urban legend is about. We know that the monster is involved in some way, but how exactly and what they intend to include is completely left out. They literally just go to the junkyard, have Ayla walk into the monster's hideout, have the monster approach, and then have this guy shoot the creature. That's it. That is literally their whole urban legend, the main story block this film is built on. A 10-second mute scene of a monster going for a French kiss with an underage girl. You see, that is exactly how you burn through $3 million of budget and still somehow F up. They even included a random scene prior to that, which I have left out because it was so random, where Ayla and her boyfriend shot a bunch of cans in her backyard to establish the fact that somebody will need a gun to shoot the monster. It's such a convenient way to write a story, it's just bad. It's like adding random story blocks here and there to kind of sort of maybe move the story along. So after their attempt to create an urban legend, they sit down and for once, one of them says something actually smart.
Guys, what the hell are we doing? We need to call the cops, or at least our parents.
Yeah, that's the way to go. That is obviously the right thing to do. It boggles my mind how this guy is the only one out of all those 6, 7, 8 people who actually thinks that way. However, let me add a slight alternative. These kids are obviously intrigued by the idea of creating a frightening short video, and we must honor their creative spirit. But it would be much better if they took a video of Ayla describing their insane discovery with the monster in the back. You see, most supernatural videos that are posted online by unemployed people having too much time on their hands are of terrible quality. But these kids have 4K 60 phones all in their pockets. They could capture the best possible frames while, and this is crucial, revealing the exact location of this monster. Now, as we will see in just a second, the video they have just shot racks up 10,000 plus views in just 2 weeks. So imagine all the kids crazy about it actually storm the junkyard and glimpse at the new urban legend monster in their neighborhood. Since it's Ayla's personal goal to scare people,
I want to scare people.
it would make perfect sense for her to opt for this way instead. Not only are our characters safer that way, but they will also literally scare hundreds of people to death, possibly literally, and succeed in their respectable endeavor to create the best school project of their class. Now 2 weeks later, our characters are called to Mr. Louie's office. That's their teacher. Even though both of them get straight A's for their efforts, they're urged to take down the video as it's apparently too scary. Which is ridiculous, really. Remember the lockjaw legend he had presented at the start of this movie triggering one girl? That legend was literally about an image that urged young kids to jump down from bridges. Yet their project, literally just a monster attempting to grab a teenage girl, is off limits. Now of course our characters refuse to follow suit, which we can respect, and leave. But our newly found respect for them is short-lived. Ayla goes nuts. First, the teacher rejected the incredibly hard work they put in filming the 15 seconds monster romance clip, and now their video is bombarded by ruthless, sick, and unapologetic hate speech comments like this one. If you can't handle comments like this, I think the internet is a bad space for you, man. Now, Ayla in her rage subsequently has another brilliant idea. She thinks it would be a good idea to lure one of their haters to the monster, push that person into that room, and film it secretly. That's a fantastic idea, because that is a one-way ticket to ruin your life at age 16, and who doesn't want that? Now, this scene is followed up by another completely random scene of all of them sitting in a staircase using their phones, not speaking anything, until for some unexplained reason, Ayla starts dancing erotically in the middle of her male friends. Now, this continues for multiple minutes and is almost as annoying as one of those annoying mid-roll ads on YouTube. Now, after this, Snack has an emotional meltdown and runs off. And fair enough, who wants to be friends with these weirdos anyway? I mean, the generic high school bully at least plays football. These kids just do dumb stuff and get off by exposing their kinks on the internet. If I was this guy, I would have already looked for new, less toxic friends a long time ago. The next big move our group makes is, yes, use the homeless person from before as a first trial victim. He is promised $100 and led to the monster's hideout. As he is pushed into the den, he gets to meet the adorable pet monster our gang has kept captive. Ironically enough though, this homeless dude gives the best acting performance of all characters in his movie. I guess he wasn't sexy enough to get more screen time. Anyway, as he faces off the monster, he can't help but laugh, thinking it is just a prank. Well, not really. A moment later, the bum is attacked from behind. Better protect your neck, someone once said. Should have listened to the clan, my guy. He is killed immediately while the kids can film the whole action. Now, as expected, they upload their new video to YouTube and gain another wave of new followers, possibly including the Feds too. Ayla, enjoying her new fame, lures her mother's boyfriend to the junkyard next, obviously intending to kill him. This time, she does it herself. Her anger and the obvious overindulgence of mafia movies where the gangsters feed their victims to alligators turn her into a ruthless killer, exploiting that poor monster to support her need to get rid of certain people. As he enters the trap, she kills him with the gun she stole from him and has him fed to the monster afterwards. Kill number 2. 5 minutes after that, she calls Jenny, the girl from her class that she hates so much, and tries luring her too into one of her traps. The whole gang squares up on her while they bring her into the den the same day. Those kids are going all in. Meanwhile, Snack is blowing the whistle to Mr. Louie, hoping to stop his friends from killing more innocent people. Now, as expected, he doesn't believe it, but can nevertheless be convinced to check out the junkyard later that night. But wait, what? If you agree to check out a place presupposing to face off the monster, why in the world would you want to do that at night? That's like the dumbest idea you could possibly have. That is why natural selection is a thing, my friends, because of people like that guy. Now, as a quick side note though, while Snack blew the whistle, Max eavesdropped on them and notified the squad about the duo's plan. So obviously, once they arrive at the monster's den and Mr. Louie coming down from his first shock after meeting the monster, they're surprised by the others from behind. Admitting to the killings of at least 2 people so far, it is obvious that Louie and Snack must be wiped out too. But before they can be shot and fed to the monster, Snack reacts, unchains the monster, and causes Mr. Louie to be the next victim. After that though, the satisfying part of the movie starts in the last 15 minutes, but hey, better later than never. As all kids spread into the junkyard trying to escape their own breed, one by one is caught and murdered. The dialogue pretty much stops here. There is no dialogue left for the last 10-15 minutes of this movie. It is just a running away compilation with some kind of atmospheric background music while one after another is being killed. At this stage though, only Ayla and Snack are still alive. While Snack is smart enough to play dead on the floor, confusing the monster obviously, Ayla loses herself in a magically appeared neon mist with a great lighting installation that you would only find in an abandoned place. She eventually hits a dead end though, and well, we already know what happens next, right? She will be killed off as well, but not so quick. The movie climaxes with Snack witnessing Ayla being trapped in a cryo chamber for no reason whatsoever. He sees her being attacked by the monster, you guessed it, from behind, and is the last one standing and, in fact, the last one to survive this whole ordeal. And that was it, my friends. I don't know if I failed to understand the symbolism in this movie, but the IMDb reviews are not encouraging. Good premise, bad execution. I would have loved to see more depth to the characters' decisions, if I'm honest. Anyway, I am off for the weekend, recovering from my new brain damage, and you, smash the like button, take care of yourselves, and binge another one next week. Much love, peace out.